Hey.
Hi.
Hey, Stephen, how are you doing?
Hey, good, and you? You are very
Yeah.
dancey.
I am dancing to the intro music. We need to get to get ourselves a proper bUnit dev sessions intro countdown
Yes.
thing. Yes,
Which we
so
can
don't
also then in reverse play for the outro. So
exactly. Yeah.
if
Oh yeah,
someone
that
is
would be
interested in donating us some license-free, royalty-free music, including video, that would be amazing.
yeah. Anyway,
Has to
hello
be dancing.
everybody. Welcome back
Hi.
to another bUnit dev session. I'm putting on my best radio voice here.
Welcome.
Today is the 11th of October, and oh, kidding. So
It depends.
yeah, it depends.
Are you in Japan? Are you tuning in from Japan? That probably not anymore. Or New Zealand. New
No,
Zealand for
probably
sure. They
not.
are 12 hours ahead.
Yeah.
At least, yeah.
Anyway, what are we doing here? So, I think besides doing a bit of the usual community links, well, not community links, that's the ASP.NET, ASP.NET community stand-up. Well, we just have our community check-in with you, Stephen, and
Yes, sir.
and then we, I think I promised a couple of weeks ago that we would look at my experiments with converting Blazor's TypeScript browser rendering code to C# so that we can use that to update our AngularSharp document object model. It's been 3-ish, maybe 4 weeks even. And so I can hardly remember what I did, but let's rediscover that together, everybody. But I guess, Stephen, if you want to start by sharing your screen and...
Let's start. Let's take this one. Exactly. That's good, by the way, that we, now here. And no, let's put ourselves here. Yes, because I was very, very bold, and in the description, now you took over my screen.
Oh, my bad.
And we're back. That is very nice.
Wasn't on purpose.
Exactly, because I was that bold and wrote into the description that we will exactly see this today. So
okay, well, now
otherwise I would have been exactly. My credibility is on the line today. Anyhow.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's new? Basically 3 or 4 things. I just opened them already. So we had one new .NET 9 that's called enhancement. Maybe for folks who didn't know, in .NET 9 you can, as you can see here in the example, I just try to hover it with my cursor. Blazor components do support constructor injection. So you don't have to use the inject attributes either in your Razor file or CS file anymore. You can just literally put them as every service or every class with DI container. You can just put it there into your constructor. Unfortunately, we didn't really support this until now. Well, now we do. At least in the, sorry, here, this little screeny thingy down there is super annoying. At least until now in the latest preview, we didn't support this. Now we do. I like. So yes, you can write now components like that if you have an interface and your component is constructed in a bUnit test. It just behaves more or less like the real deal. Yeah, that's all. It's the preview version. If you want to download this, I guess I put this somewhere here. No, maybe we should put the preview version out. I didn't put the preview version out here.
I think we can. I think there were 1 or 2 release changes, small changes we did this week, so we can just push out a new version.
Okay,
we can
I like that
trigger
too.
our release workflow, I guess.
Perfect. So I like that.
Look at that while we are going through the rest of the comments.
Yeah, exactly. Then the second one was, I know it hasn't that much use, but it seems like some people are using it, and I'm very, very glad. So for folks who may not know, we do have some source code generators who help you creating stubs pretty easily. So you can see that he has a component, and that component creates automatically everything which has a parameter or cascading parameter and whatnot. Until now, the generator didn't really understand that there could be a base component, and the base component can also have properties. So this is his example. You can see here you have a base component, and then you have a derived component which inherits from that. And as you can see, the source code generator unfortunately only creates the one from the derived class, or the class you put the add stub into. If you would put the base component here, you would see only obviously base property. Well, that was quite easily. You just go up the inheritance tree and just add everything which is some kind of parameter, Blazor parameter. Also, so this is anyway our generators. So they're called bUnit generators. That's just a NuGet package. There's a whole documentation on bUnit.dev. It's a preview package because it's not like it's really part of bUnit as bUnit. It's more like an extension, and we keep it as preview for now. Maybe that changes in the future, maybe not. If we see there's no one using it, we can also drop it even.
Well, so it's sort of a chicken and egg, because we could conceivably move it to being on preview, and then more people would use it, because some people are not allowed to have dependencies on preview packages in their code. So I think
for now I like it, to be honest, that it is preview, because those things came out because it's a preview.
It's your baby, so you get to decide when it's ready for the world.
That's
my youngest human baby is she's not really a baby anymore. She's 7 now, but she's homesick. Currently situated in front of the TV with Netflix watching Ninjago, but I might be interrupted more than usual in our Friday streams here. So maybe I had to step out for a few minutes to help out with something. So now you won't.
That is my time to entertain.
Yeah.
Maybe I can, I don't know, breakdance or so. I can't do that, but I can try. So doesn't matter.
Yes, it's all about
exactly.
Stephen.
Let me just go quickly here. So for folks who might want, let me just zoom in a bit. It's not very. I hope is it big enough? Is it readable enough?
I think it's big enough.
Okay.
I haven't checked on YouTube on my phone, but I think it looks about right.
I mean, 150% should be straightforward. Sure. So if you go to bUnit dev on the left side on the navigation pane here, you have extensions, and bUnit generators is one of them. And here's the whole documentation. So whoever wants to, try this out, would be very lovely to have some feedback, and then we can decide whether or not this should become a stable release, or whatever. We can also leave it in preview. Yes, that's that. Yeah, I would continue. I guess there's nothing more to say about this one. It was fairly straightforward.
That's about 2,000 downloads, so somebody is definitely using it.
Me. I use it in my other projects. That was one of the reasons. Because I like it. Some of the things are really, really, really easier. Or I'm just lazy. But
I think it might be Yeah, so I guess the discussion would be like, if we want to make it an add-on preview thing, do we just include it in the bUnit base package so it's just there for people who want to use it or not? So, yeah.
Fair.
I don't know. Well, let's.
I would like to get a bit more feedback.
Yeah, let's stick to that, I guess.
Yeah, because my cases are very, very straightforward, very trivial. And there it works like a charm, but. I think there are folks outside that have some kind of a more exceptional exotic cases where it breaks. And I would like to know those cases.
Most likely. All right.
Most likely. Okay.
Let's put it out there. What we can do, though, is I see in the README file, we haven't actually added it to the sort of NuGet downloads table that we have in the...
Oh, it should be there, yes.
Well, not in the NuGet package, so I don't think it's...
Oh, damn it. I only added to the README MD in the main one.
Yeah, it looks like it. But I think also
I outsmarted myself here.
Well, so I was just browsing. If you go to NuGet.org and find the package, unfortunately, and it's super annoying that NuGet.org, you can see it's a bit messed up. The whole header. There's some links and stuff. We probably wanna do something where we, I don't know, have a custom README for the NuGet package, because they don't do HTML, it seems, which is annoying. They did that at some point. I'm not sure what the hell's going on. I'm fairly certain they did that. True. But you can also see, if you scroll a bit more down here, you can see it only has
here you can see GUnit. And even the web query from Scott is also a very nice extension to bUnit.
And
But,
he has been fellow MVP Scott of ours. He's been threatening to go back and implement more of the testing library query APIs that are really nice to use if you want to test your components using a more standards-based way. Yeah, we probably need to revisit that library and make sure that also that the README file is up to date for it. Right.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe I think it's time to push out also an update of that where it's not a preview anymore, because it's from what we have there, it works okay. And actually, hang on, what is the 2 point something? That version number is not right.
Why? This one here, the top one?
Yeah.
Oh, that is right.
Oh, yeah, of course, yes. Our version 2. Okay, that's right.
Yes.
But yeah,
because it's the same. We push everything out.
Yeah, that's true. We probably want to push out stable releases of that going forward, because we have released a stable release at some point. So, yeah. I think that might be a small change.
I guess our initial reasoning was the same as the generators. We wanted to get feedback before we say it's stable, for folks out there to use it.
Yeah.
Wait, we have a comment. Hey. Definitely. They don't do Mermaid either. Yeah, that's a bit of a pity. I do like the Mermaid support in GitHub itself. It's very nice.
There is an open issue with the NuGet.org folks in their repository about basically supporting the same things as you have in the README as you can on GitHub. And then also because you can have a changelog attached to your releases. If you go back to one of the core packages of bUnit, we actually add changelogs as well. You can see it release notes, but that doesn't support Markdown. So yeah, super annoying. But we have sort of set it up so that it will pick out the current section of the current release and just paste it in there, because even though it doesn't support Markdown, it's still quite nice to have it, because that will also show up in Visual Studio. So when people can see, when they want to see a new version, they can actually see what changed. So
does it work in Visual Studio as
that is
HTML?
No, I know it's still just text. I believe. I haven't tested, but it's nice that it's in part of the package that you push out the release notes for that particular version. So yeah, I think that again, it would be nice if NuGet.org got a bit more love. But yeah.
Well, they have dark mode now.
They have dark mode. It's small steps, I guess.
Yes.
Anyway, you were about to. I think you were about to. What were you about to do? You were about to create a new release, right?
Me?
Yes. Well,
in a second. I just wanted to finish this one.
Oh yeah.
So the last one.
Go ahead. Yeah.
From
maybe you can zoom a bit more in on that.
Let's zoom. Oh yeah, I only had 150. I don't know. Every other page was 150 except this one. Thank you very much. Yeah. So from basically it's the creator, I guess, of Newtons of JSON.
Yep.
Now, you told me he's a part of the .NET Aspire team.
Yes, and you can almost see it if you look at the things he's asking about. So he's building the Aspire dashboard that if you've used Aspire, you would know that. And he's building that with Blazor server. And he's using bUnit to test the Blazor components there. And so he ran into an issue thing that wasn't obvious. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty straightforward. Basically, let's only look at this bottom part here. So he has a page which basically has a parameter. You can also see it down here. It's the application name. And he also has an optional query parameter called meter. So you can see this roughly here. For example, here meter is foo. And he has resource test app. That would be his application name. What he does is he just gets the navigation manager and says like, hey, navigate to that page.
Yeah, and then he writes his component under test.
Exactly. This is basically test code.
It's quite common that you want to, well, if you have a page component in your Blazor application, you might want to use your navigation manager to go to some other page or change parameters or query parameters. So that's quite common. And so, yeah.
What he
go
did is basically he did this, and
ahead.
what he found out or what happened then is that the meter worked perfectly fine. So meter name was set to foo and has the value, but application name was still a null string, even though, well, it's written here, test app. So it's a bit of a mixed bag that he said, like, hey, why is part of the route mapping to my properties, but other parts aren't? And then he said, like, okay, yeah, fair enough. What I can do is I can just say, like with every other parameter, you can just
Yeah.
set the value.
Yes, but
And
that doesn't work, because what he's expecting is that if he navigates to some other thing, like if he went to not to test app but to test app 2 or whatever.
yeah, exactly. Then it wouldn't obviously reflect that
yeah,
change.
exactly, it wouldn't reflect that change. So I don't think that probably wasn't something in his particular case though, but if he in his component on a test was changing to a different path, but that still that still pointed to the same component, and it's probably why we haven't actually had anybody else complain about this before now. Then you would want to have your component lifecycle sort of run again, parameter set. You would expect to see whatever you have set for your application name that would be updated in that parameter as well.
Yeah.
If you inside that component navigates to itself and then does a thing. Now, obviously that doesn't happen, and that's surprising and confusing. And I really dislike that in libraries I'm using, and thus also in libraries I'm building. So I think it's something we should have a look at some point and see if we can address in a way that doesn't break existing users.
Yes.
Because there might be users that have tests now that are written that expect this. It's certainly something we can change for V2 of bUnit. But yeah, I'm also so I when I saw that issue, I looked briefly at our navigation manager, the fake navigation manager that we provide in bUnit, and I actually didn't see anything in there that helps us with the query string parameters. So I'm not sure if that's
something we did.
it is something we did somewhere. Okay.
Release 127. So
Okay.
before release 127, this wouldn't have worked.
I see.
And in .NET 8, no, .NET before .NET 8, I guess the whole discussion we had was that the supply parameters from query parameter, since I guess .NET 8 or .NET 9, no, I'm not 100% certain, is inheriting from the cascading parameter or cascading value parameter attribute. And in earlier times, let's say before this was the case, this was the way to go. You had to use the basically component or the collection parameter factory stuff. That was the only way to set parameters. And then we made this one work because of this whole cascading thing. And now it seems a bit inconsistent that you can set part of the stuff, but you cannot set all of it. In his particular reason, he could even still use builder add in both cases because he still uses the parameter, which isn't. You don't have to set this anymore. And with .NET 8 and Blazor, this one is optional.
You have to set it for. So what he's actually doing, he's passing in the application name. An application name, you have to have parameter on that.
No, sorry, I meant only for this one.
Yeah. So he could have passed meter name in through builder as well, but so I think my whole point though, my whole issue with it is that if you have a component, maybe you trigger something through a on-click event, like you click a button in your component, and that causes the component to call navigate to and pass in new path parameters and or query string parameters, potentially as it is in his case here, right? Well, he doesn't change. I actually don't think he changes the path parameter, but still, it changes the whatever. It's like maybe you click on different tabs and you want to see different tabs, right? So you want to test that. Now, I don't want people to first in that bUnit test say, I'm going to trigger that event handler, click that button, and then after that go and have to call component on the test.set parameters async and pass in a new, in his case, application name, because that sort of causes two render cycles for your component, which in production would only be one render cycle, because what triggers the re-render is that you cause maybe it actually triggers two renders, but still, it's not the same behavior as you have in production. And even though we're not running in a real browser with bUnit, I really want us to be as close as possible where it makes sense to how the real, production works for components, right?
Yeah.
So,
You know what?
yeah,
For now, I would for sure say investigate. This is something we want to investigate. We want to allocate resources.
I think we need to investigate. Maybe there's a bit of. So I think we understand. So investigate, I sort of reserve more for. We don't understand what you're telling us. Like, this issues require further explanation. Now, in terms of providing a fix, there's definitely some.
I thought this is input needed, but okay.
Maybe you're probably right, Stephen. Needs design was probably more that we need to sort of figure out how to do this in terms of so yeah, so maybe just a needs design as well, but because we understand the problem, but we don't have a fix yet. This is my
exactly. We understand the problem, but we have no fix forward.
Thanks to James, for bringing this to our attention. It's I know a lot of people inside of Microsoft, like internal teams, have been using bUnit for their Blazor internal Blazor stuff, but it's fun to see Blazor projects from Microsoft open sourced on GitHub, where you can go and read and see how they write bUnit test and how they use it. So that's nice.
Yeah. I guess that is there's a very, very, very small pull request I created this morning, but it's just unfortunately system text JSON had another CVE in the latest version. So whoever's currently tuning in or in the near future, please upgrade your system text JSON packages. They found even the 8.04 version, they found a CVE. So please upgrade to 8.05. The pull request I created, coming back to bUnit, is I figured that 8.05 is .NET standard. So there was absolutely no reason in the beginning to have different versions for different target frameworks. So something super, super small.
I'm just going to rebase and merge this in so it can be part of our next release, so we don't have
that would be amazing.
Complaining.
I like that.
Then we have the polyfill upgrade.
They are part of this. You don't have to do this. It's part of the pull request you already merged. And I even said depend about recreate.
Yeah, just
create.
Yeah, it didn't. No, it takes a while, so we can just close the PR.
Okay.
From Dependabot. What else? Now we are pruning our PR.
The system text JSON is the same. It's right now rebasing. Okay. Yeah. And the Microsoft extension thingies, I don't know why they are coming up, especially given that this package is used in.
It's because we have like a special. So if you view what is it called? Like expand that. I think that the file that changes wants to do is in our specific for .NET, right?
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Yeah, so it's we don't really want that change because we want those versions locked to whatever versions they have. So this is fine because that's just a RC2 for .NET.
It's because .NET Standard 2.0 that why it would work. Okay.
Yeah, I guess we could use the latest one. Maybe.
To be honest, I wouldn't allocate much of
no. So I think
brain power in there.
For that. If I understand correctly, if you look at the PR, it only has one change, and that's for the thing that isn't already. So I'm just going to say no to that. Let's just close that PR down. With the Dependabot, it's a bit annoying because we have it in multiple places. So it's and I guess the same. The logging abstraction is probably going to be the same thing. No, wait a minute. Nope, that's also the same. So yeah, plus it fails on all accounts when it's tries to build. So let's just
one more reason to close it.
Yeah, and it's
this one is the rebasing, and this we can just close it. That's the one literally you merged in.
Yeah. And the polyfill, you said you also included that, right?
Yes.
All right, I'm closing that as well. Oh,
that's why I did the recreate in the first place because I was like, why don't you close that?
and create a new release, and then we can have a quick look at TypeScript and how we use that.
Was it just release? I was always confused because
prepare release.
yeah, it's easy. So that's a major, that's a minor. Oh, thank you. Let's go.
Yeah. So our release pipeline does a few things, updates versions, move things around, and then it creates a release branch that targets our stable.
It will fail.
Will it though?
God damn it! Yes, it will. We have no entry in the change log, which is a precondition.
That's true.
So
you forgot to update the changelog, and I forgot to check that you hadn't done it. So
they're all your fault.
yeah, it's all my fault. Well, it's a collaboration. Yeah. So that's two fixes, right? Two changes, right? We had one was a fix. Was both of them fixes, or was one an addition?
Well, this is the bUnit generator, which is that's even not part of our stable release. I'm not sure if I should bring this in here.
I think it's fine.
Okay, I would say edit. It's a feature.
Yeah, new feature.
bUnit fix generators. Respect.
Okay, and also I think it's not fixed. It's also added. We support constructor injection.
Sorry. Yeah. That also I wanted to put I wanted to put something else down here.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, I don't want to break the flow.
Supporting components with constructor dependencies. Looks roughly right.
You wanna write support. I think it's just support components using constructor injection in .NET 9.
Constructor.
Yeah, and say instead of with, say using
support. Yeah, thank you. With a Z, as
losing.
always.
You show your where you come from. it's see everything in German or Switzerland, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Querts, not QWERTY. But do you have QWERTY? Do you have QWERTY or QWERTZ? Do you have in English? You like American layout?
Yeah. Well, in the Scandinavian countries, we have the American keyboard layout, but there's a few additional keys on our keyboard with our special characters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fixed. I wanted to try to use latest system text JSON.
Yeah, I don't think those matter. Well, it does a little bit, but it's
for folks, that. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's go. Docs, edit, change log entry. So we peer reviewed that.
Yeah. I'm very happy with that.
Awesome. So no need for pull requests if you pair program. Amazing.
Indeed. All right, you can try to rerun the prepare release again.
Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah.
Wait, maybe I just felt something because of something else. No, that's exactly what I thought it did.
Yeah.
So that said, prepare release, run the workflow, minor, let's go. Cool. I hope now everything is working, but if not, then the behind the scenes magic is doing its thing.
Yeah. It should prevent us from doing.
Now the question is there anything else before we go to the magic of TypeScript to C#?
Yeah, good question.
I'm hyped.
I don't know, but I might misremember. So we'll see.
Maybe before we switch, I mean, the last thing we did, just for my own sake, like on the V2 branch, it was a bit unrelated to your TypeScript to C# renderer
you are
adventures.
Hang on, I think I lost connection.
No, that was me.
You lost connection.
Oh, I do not know. I lost. I didn't hear anything anymore. But it's
Yeah.
difficult to
Okay.
say.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
only have 2 people in the call. It's
Yeah.
very, very tricky to say.
Somebody. Yeah. We lost somebody. Anywho, what were you saying?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the last thing we did a few weeks before, before we did the whole central package management thing,
Yeah.
we were working on V2, and we did some stuff. So the DOM is basically solely angle sharp objects, and the markup is then generated out of them. So maybe you
Correct.
can give a bit of context what you wanted to achieve with the whole TypeScript to C# thing.
Yeah. So I guess if we go back to the beginning, we have a few outstanding things that we cannot do in V1, because what we do whenever a component is being rendered is that we generate just raw markup similar to what the Blazor renderer package from Microsoft can do, where you pass it in a component and it gives you just the string HTML representation of your markup. Now, then when we have that string representation, we call it the raw markup string, we pass that to a custom angle sharp parser that we have, and that spits out angle sharp components. No, angle sharp elements, or rather, maybe more precisely put, an angle sharp DOM element. So angle sharp, if you don't know what that is, it's a library written by Florian Rebel. I think I'm probably saying that with a very English accent.
Florian
Yeah,
Rappel would be.
Yeah, Florian. Yeah. So
if this is really like how we pronounce it, names are always a bit tricky.
He's German, so you probably have a better chance of getting that right than me. Anyway, he has created angle sharp, and angle sharp is his attempt at a more or less precise implementation of the HTML5 specification, including the CSS specification and so on and so forth. It's quite an undertaking, and it's quite heavily used. It has 100+ million downloads, angle sharp. Now, what you can do is you can give it a raw string or just a C# string that contains HTML, and it will happily give you back a document object model representing that markup. And that is, I think, what many, if not most people, use when they have rendered a component out. They go and say, find me that element and inspect that element or assert against that element. And the problem is that whenever we re-render a component that you have under test, we throw away the whole DOM tree and then get raw markup string again, and then we create a new DOM tree and pass that. And there's a bit of magic going on underneath the hood to sort of make it seem like we hadn't thrown away the object. So if you had, retrieved an element from the DOM from a previous render, sometimes, if not all the time, we are able to update that element reference you have to the new element reference, but not all the time. There's some edge cases, but it's been a feature in bUnit for 3+ years now, and I think for the most part it works because we're not getting any complaints related to it. But there is some things about traversing up and down the component tree we want to do in V2. There's things related to going from an element and saying what component in my component tree created this. And then there's a whole bunch of other things we want to do. And some of the things we can't do because of the way things work. We also want to simplify our code by making some parts harder or more complex, and then and throw away some of the magic we have that sort of updates the references to the old version and of element returned to you. So one of the attempts, and I have a separate repository called Angle Sharp Experiments, where I'm trying to basically render out components, and instead of building raw strings as we did before, we instead just create angle sharp DOM elements using a mix of the angle sharp API to just create elements, and sometimes also using the parser, because sometimes your component will produce a markup string which contains more elements. We don't know what's in there, but basically in Blazor, when the Blazor compiler or Razor compiler sees your component. If you just have markup in there, you don't have any logic, you don't have any strings that or string interpolation or something else going in on the markup, then it'll just return and just give you a full markup if you don't have any on-click stuff or something like that. So it tries to not make the render tree more complex than it needs to be. So sometimes there'll just be a blob of markup in between all the other things you have, like on-click event handlers. I guess you can call that all active elements in your code. So
interactive elements.
So interactive, yeah, I guess. So that's sort of what we've started out towards. Now, it kind of worked, but then but I think sort of the next step is to emulate what the Blazor JavaScript runtime does in the browser. So the first attempt was just looping through the full render tree every time, and then recreating the full DOM again, but just going directly to creating a DOM and not creating first a raw markup string and then pass that into a DOM. We just create the raw DOM immediately. That was the first attempt, and we got that working. We even got click handlers and all of that working. Now, the second step would be to, instead of just recreating the full DOM every time, we wanted to do what the Blazor runtime does. And what it does is, and the reason why especially Blazor Server and also Blazor WebAssembly is super efficient at updating the DOM is, whenever you have a render, the Blazor renderer will run through your components and figure out all the changes you have. And at the end result will be it's sort of a diff of the changes that have happened since the last render. So, and that is what Blazor Server calls a render batch. Let me actually start sharing my
By the
screen.
way, if you're very, very interested in that, if you have a Blazor Server application and you open your developer tools and you go to the WebSocket stream, you can see the diff. So if you're just interested into that, you can literally see what Blazor things changed in your application.
Yes. So if we go down here, I have sort of a custom render.
Before you start,
Yes.
I can just merge the PR and then the release is done.
Oh, let me jump back here. Yeah, so this is our release branch that we just created by running our prepare release. And if you, I guess we need to
yeah, I have to approve it,
approve it, and then it can.
Let me check again. That looks amazing. Someone did amazing work.
The nice thing about having created a release branch that has a PR targeting our stable branch is that if there's any conflict between the two, or they are somehow gotten out of sync. So we don't want to do squash and merge though. I guess we just create a merge request simply, like classic merge, because we actually want to know this is a release, right? So click that and things happening in the background. All right. Well done, sir. All right. So
short question, what is the other release CI doing then?
Say again?
We have also the release pipeline, like the release
that is getting triggered by us merging something into stable.
Thank you. Yeah, I need this reminder from time to time. Thank you.
Prepare release is something we call manually whenever we are ready to do a release, and release is something that happens when we merge something into main.
When something runs unstable or so, huh?
Yeah.
Oh no, if there's an open PR2. It doesn't matter. Continue. Ignore me.
Anywho,
it's Friday.
As I was saying, if you look at the Blazor renderer, and we have a derived type from that called bUnit renderer, it has a method called update display async, and it gets passed a render batch, which contains a list of updated components, a list of reference range that have changed since the last render, also a list of disposed components and disposed event handler IDs. So, so instead of going and asking the render to give us the full complete render tree with all the individual bits and pieces that are in there, when this is called, we only get the diff, which typically is very, there's not enough going on there. And with that in hand, we can go using angle sharp renderer, pass the batch into that, and say, now go and find the individual elements in the DOM and only update those that have actually changed and leave the rest of them alone. So the theory is that if we have an element that has been returned to the user, and for example, our classic, the counter button everybody knows and loves, who's done a Blazor app. When you click the count button, the count increments, and that's only the text that would be changed. And then we would just go in and find the button, update its inner text, and then that's it, right? So we don't throw away the element and everything keeps working. Now, there is some, let me jump over here and show you. So the code, and that's TypeScript code that does this, well, JavaScript, but it's TypeScript in the source repository. Don't show again. Go away. So here, over here in my VS Code, I have the ASP.NET Core repository open, and under the source components web.das source rendering folder, we have the browser renderer TS file. And whenever either TypeScript or whenever either Blazor server sends the render batch down to the client over the Signal connection, or in Blazor WebAssembly, whenever we have, whenever it's not getting sent over the Signal connection, but it's still the render batch still shows up in the WebAssembly version of Blazor that runs on your client, and it will then call JavaScript and say, "Hey, here's my batch. Go and update that." So you will see that we have update components that receives a render batch and a few other things that they need to do because it's JavaScript, and you can see it. So what the Blazor, the browser renderer does is that it creates sort of a it has what it calls logical elements, which is almost like a shadow DOM or tree that they basically, so essentially what they do is they attach additional information to each element that is created by Blazor so that they know stuff like what component did this come from. And when a component has changed, they can go and find the element that sort of is the first element for that component, and then they can find, so they use that to sort of go in and find the right elements to update. And one of the neat things compared to other UI libraries that use shadow DOMs and other things is that this actually can update the DOM in a single pass. Like they don't, like usually when they for example, React, as I understand it, when it updates the DOM, it has to do multiple passes over to figure out which ones changes and patch individual parts and so on and so forth. So, and logical elements, by the way, they're sort of also marker elements that are being added into the DOM by Blazor and that are used to sort of delimit where a component starts and ends, because a component can contain half of an element, right? So you can have some weird things where you have maybe some part of the component that is in the parent component, then you have other parts, some parts of the element you're rendering may be divided into multiple components, right? So there's no guarantee from Blazor's side that all the elements that a component always starts with an element and ends with an element being closed, right? So what Blazor does is to be able to track where element starts and stops is that it inserts, and you've probably seen those these comments into the DOM. So they will insert comments that looks like this in your markup. So if you go and look at any Blazor application, look at the raw markup that is, or the markup in your what's it called, the dev tools, you will see a whole bunch of these thrown into your markup, right? So that's Blazor's way of keeping track of where a component starts and ends. Now, it's a bit annoying, and I hope that in the C# version, we can get around that. So we don't have to keep track of them like this, because it does add noise to our document object model. If people want to just capture, execute toString on that, you would also get all the comments out. And they would see, because comments are also nodes in AngelSharp So they exist in the DOM next to all the other nodes. So they make a bit of noise. What we could do, I think one option would be to simply say, whenever people want to see the raw markup, we just ignore them, right? So they don't get printed out. But I would prefer not to have them there. But anyway, now, so what I did is I tried to use Copilot, and I also used ChatGPT to see which one worked best. And I would basically say, well, first I just went to Copilot. I have it down here somewhere, chat, and just say, hey, convert this file to C#, right, using the Angle Sharp API. And that's more or less, and it kind of worked, and it actually started doing
Really?
that. But then it ran out of tokens, because you can see it's a fairly long file. That's 500 lines. So it kind of ran out of tokens and couldn't really complete it, right? And then I said, well, okay, maybe I have access to the fancy version of ChatGPT. Maybe it can handle much more. So I copy and pasted the full file into it and say, hey, convert this to C#. And instead of using the browser DOM APIs, we're using the Angle Sharp DOM API, so it knows that it needs to uppercase. It knows Angle Sharp, right, ChatGPT. And it thought about it for a minute, and then it said, no, I think I'm breaking some copyright stuff here, so I don't want to do that. so I had to cheat a little bit. So
Really? Even though this is open source?
Yeah, I tried to say, no, you're not. It's open source, MIT license. I'm free to convert and do whatever with it I want, right? And it still really wouldn't budge. So, anyway, so what I ended up doing was I would take basically, like, I would create, they call it browser renderer here. If you go back to C# version, I call it Angle Sharp renderer, because browser renderer is not really right? We are using Angle Sharp to render with, so I think that's better. And so this is more or less what I got out of that. So what I did was we have sort of the same methods here. You can see there's the attach to logical element. We have that. We have dispose components. That's somewhere below here. Then we have dispose event handler. Then we have update component, which is the big one. This is well, it calls a few methods basically, but it's broken into a lot of smaller method calls. So the code is not super hard to read on your own, but there is a lot of small details in it. But basically, I was able to take each of these methods and just one by one ask either ChatGPT or Copilot. I can't remember which one I ended up using. I went back and forth between them a bit and said, hey, just highlight this, and let's just say, basically do convert this to C#, convert the selected method to C#, using the Angle Sharp API. And I think I also had to, well, you can see it spits out a whole bunch of things. And then, I had to help it a bit and said, well, I don't have these types. And then I said, well, then I had to refine my query a bit more and say, well, you actually have, because we also have the Blazor APIs in here as well. So we don't need a render batch. We already have that. And then I said, well, and then implement that method, and then implement that method, and so on and so forth. And I kept doing that. And it actually didn't, I think it took 2 to 3 hours to do what it needed to do, right? So, and that's things we might not want to have in our code. So if we have a look from the top here, so we basically want to find, we have a dictionary here called child component locations, and it's an integer, the ID of the component, and then a logical element. A logical element is something I implemented for now. I think we might be able to do it in a better way, maybe at some point. But this is basically the logical element that also exists in the browser version. And you can go over here and we can actually find it. It's under, here we go, logical element. But what it actually is, it's just, I guess, how do you define that? An interface kind of thing in if you go to definition, you can see it's just an interface.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So it's basically so what the Blazor renderer is doing is it's just attaching additional properties to the DOM elements in the browser, because it can do that. Like, it's a dynamic language, so you get I don't know, a div element, and then you can just go and add new properties to that element. So that's essentially what you're doing here by defining something called a logical element, and you can have custom information on that. And so they sort of leverage that. Obviously, we can't just add custom extra properties to our inode. so we have to we actually have to create a logical element that we keep somewhere else. But what you will also notice is that a logical element is something that has a node behind it. It has logical children, which is a list of child logical elements. And then it has a parent that may or may not be null, right? Because if it's the top one. Now, this looks very similar to another concept that exists in Blazor, in Blazor server, or the server parts, which is the component state. So the Blazor, each component in your Blazor application has something that the Blazor render tracks called a component state, and it has, it has a parent. So if you look at the base type, we have our own version that we are working on as well, that we want to solve all problems. But the base type has an ID, it has the component itself, then it has the parent, and then it also has something called logical parent, because or the, what's it called again, the section outlets. So it has a parent, but it also has a logical parent if it's put into a different part of the DOM tree because of the section outlets, right? So
also head outlet.
If you squint a little bit, the component state could also serve as a logical element. Let me just open that up, so keep it around. Right. So because if we go back to our component state, where did you go? There we go. So what we have is, in our component state, well, we have a list of child nodes. We have our root component. We also keep a list of the child component states, because why not? So we can navigate down the tree. That's something I probably added offline while you didn't look. And then we also have, let's see, we have the root, and the root has the document reference. But independent of that, like, we have a list of nodes which sort of equates to kind of is the same as we have here. Instead of like this, if I change this inode to an inode list, it would be the same, more or less. Like, we would have the same bits in here, and for logical element, it could have one or more nodes in theory, right? But for now, I'm trying not to optimize before I've sort of verified that the whole conversion went well. So I keep the same constructs around. Okay.
Why is it the same? I mean, why is the node list the same as the node, given that it should represent one singular element?
I think, so my point was that if I have a node, I can put it into a node list. And if there's only one element in there. So I'm just trying to sort of see that this, I guess it's sort of premature optimization in this particular case, but I'm thinking about, well, it's kind of annoying to have to create a logical element for every single one of our DOM nodes that we get from AngleSharp, because that's basically multiplying all the elements or objects you have to keep in memory. And the purpose of the logical element is typically to identify the start and end of a component. Right, and then you can navigate within that start and end of the component to individual component elements inside that component. And component state serves the same could serve that purpose. So yeah, maybe disregard all I just said because it might have been unnecessarily confusing. But yeah, we have these logical elements. And again, do interrupt me if I'm just remembering all of this myself as well. So, are you convinced, on board for now?
I'm still there. Yes.
You're still here. Good. Let me pull us over here. So when I actually look towards the direction, then I'm actually looking at you and the screen now. So, but we can't. I can't just attach logical elements to the nodes themselves. So I have a dictionary instead, right? And whenever we have the call attach root component to logical element, I have a helper method called to logical element that will take an element in, and that's actually something that also exists in the JavaScript version. It'll take a node in, and it will go to the map that we just looked at. That's it's a static map that's stored here in our logical elements extensions. And it will see if the element is already mapped to a logical element, and if not, it will, instantiate a new one of that, add it to the map, or our internal mapping between. Basically, we have to create a separate tree next to the DOM tree to track things. And then it'll loop over each of the elements' child nodes and basically call two logical elements. So basically, you go breadth first down through the through the element to its children, and then you update parent and so on and so forth. So basically, you build out the tree whenever you add a new element with its child elements. If it's not already there, then you return it. So there's a few methods in here for managing that. You can create an empty element. Sometimes we need that. Then there's a whole bunch of things where we create and insert logical container. So this is a method we use when we want to create those dividers, what the renderer does. And we have logical elements. I guess, actually, how do we go about this? Should I just actually start a debug session up and we can step through it and understand what's going on?
That would be nice, yeah.
I think
with a
that
very,
might be
very
easier.
simple.
Yeah.
I guess you could even start with a component that literally has just some markup inside without anything else. If you have that.
So let's see. We have some bUnit v2 stuff going on. I want to see if I v1 versus v2 prototype that. So this is just comparing. This is some of the old tests. You saw those before. I think everything still passes. Find component from node. So let's have a look at this component I created to test out some things. Okay. Go to definition, please. By the way, this is so annoying. Visual Studio, come on. I am searching for a component. Don't show me the generated file. I can't use that for anything. This should be the last option. Don't pick it as the first one. Anyway, enough complaining. So what I have here is I have input element that is just a type of number, and you can change the count of the value. And then we have a p tag, then we have a main, and depending on what the count is, we will loop through and add or remove elements, right? I don't know, should we start with something even more simple? Let's see.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have something
That
like
looks
this.
good.
Yes, okay. And let's just fact public async task angle sharp renderer simple element. Now here, what are we doing here? We're just doing something along these lines. Do we even have an option of passing in stuff? Guess not.
I mean, for now you can set it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Even if it's zero, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, we just render that with 0. And I guess after that, what we can do is we can do var DOM equals cut.document and assert true. I can't think of something else right now. Yeah. Okay, well, no, let's do this.
True. You just put it true. Assert true.
Not null. DOM. All right. So And by the way, I changed something maybe also since you looked at it last time. So we have a bUnit root component state that is special in that it doesn't have a parent. I was annoyed by us having
We had
parents.
this. Oh, I can remember this one.
What's up? Hey, Bruce Nabel. What is up? Yes, good question. We are trying very hard to look at if my Blazor browser renderer from the ASP.NET Core repository that actually updates the DOM in the browser. I've converted that using ChatGPT or Copilot to TypeScript or to C#, from TypeScript to C#, and now I want to convince Steven that I didn't waste my time. I think that is what's up. To answer the
You
question.
want to convince yourself.
I know I'm right, man. I know I'm right. Now, oh yeah, so we want to have, what did we call that element? Was it just element? I think it's just called element.
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Why is he complaining? Because you have multiple elements.
Yeah, so it's not very well named. So let's do components dot elements. Yes, element. All right.
Amazing.
So that's under our components folder. Now, let's see. Don't want that open. Don't want that open. Let's go in here and on this guy. Yeah, so I guess what I was saying is that for the root components, we have a specific root component state that has the sort of root, that has the document, it owns the document that we're gonna add and remove stuff from. And then it inherits from the component's bUnit component state, which has its slice of nodes, it has children, and it has the root, which points to itself in that particular case, and the parent. Now, there's still, this is not finalized in any way, but it was just my attempt of doing something. I can't even remember if I left it in a broken state. Maybe I did, I'm not sure. Now, if you go in here, and no, that's not where we want to go. We want to go to we want to go into the bUnit render. Now, yeah, I put a breakpoint here. So after our first render, we want to come in here and we can sort of step through. And this is where you can see this is the code we had before, Steven. And now we have the code that basically exists in, this is from TypeScript as well, converted more or less one-to-one. And so, yeah, all right, let's
hit the debugger.
Talking about it, and let's actually do it. Let's build out, and I guess that would be something like, I think this thing, yeah, this one. And
well.
Finish building. All right, so come on. Oh, well, let's try that again. Start up in debug mode, please. There we go. We don't need that open. We don't need diagnostic tools. I guess
this one we might need.
Zoom it tool, so I can zoom in for you guys. All right, start by newing up our renderer, render the element. All right, so as expected, we got into update display async, right? And we have, if we want to look, we have one updated component. Makes sense. We have only rendered one component, so that should be one updated component. We don't have any disposed components. We don't have any disposed event handlers because there's nothing to be found. All right, so we just go and pull out the diff, and the diff is, I really wanted to, it would be nice if this could be so that you guys can follow along more easily, but I can expand them here, and then I can zoom in. Zoom, right, something along those lines. I hope that's visible. So we have an array with one element in there, and you can see the only thing we really have in here is prepend frame. Now that's expected as well. So we can go and pull out our edits, which is just what we saw before. Now we actually call our AngleSharp renderer and call update components, which is the method you also saw from TypeScript. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to go and So we
Why does
already
it-
have Go ahead.
Exactly. I wanted to ask, why does it have already something in the map?
Oh, so yeah, that came from here. Actually, let me debug last run. Let's do that again. So step over, step over, step over. So we start by getting
Okay.
here, attach root component to logical element. What we have here is the component 0, which is our root
So
component.
this is the bUnit root component state?
Yeah,
thingy?
exactly. Yeah, and we get an element which is you can't
Body.
see that, but I can pin that, and then it becomes
Oh, now it's
nice and large. So it's the body elements, right? So if we step in here to logical elements,
short
we
question.
just go-
Wait.
Yeah.
You're quick. Where's the body coming from? Because your component doesn't have a body.
All right, let's step back. So it comes from here, create component state, which is something that happens in the bUnit renderer when we, so up here, when we wanna, when the renderer wants to create a component, it has to create a component state for that component. And we've overridden this method called component state. So it passes in our component ID, it passes in the component, which is the element component. Pin that as well so you can see that easily. So it's the elements component. We don't have any parents. Now, because we don't have any parents, we go in here and we say angle sharp context, give me an empty document. We have it here, the HTML
Good.
document. And we say, we call angle sharp renderer, attach this particular component ID to the body of this document. And then after we've done that, we create a new bUnit root component state where we pass in the document, component ID, and other things, right?
Okay.
All right.
Fair.
Okay. So then we end up in here, and if we step one further level down the code stack, we end up in here. And obviously, we don't expect our map to have any logical element already. So what we do is we go and say to logical elements, and basically that just instantiates our logical element and sets properties. Now we can add it to the map. Child node length is 0, so we're basically done here. There's no child nodes of our element. All right, and then we have child component locations. So this is how angle sharp tracks the first element in of a component, and sometimes that first element is the sort of
Angle
tracking. Yeah, it's sometimes if you have a component that sits in the middle of something, another then it will add the comment tag.
Wait. Sure. So you mean component or you mean node? Because I feel like component doesn't make much sense in the context of angle sharp.
No, but so here you can see we are in the angle sharp renderer, which is
the
thing we created. Yeah, and we need to basically this translates from component IDs
ID
to a logical element, and a logical element is, I guess, the parent element of the component ID. So again, if you go back here in the renderer, attach root component to logical element, you will see it does more or less the same thing. Well, we have, this is not relevant for us. We don't have any context, so as such, but we get passed in a logical element, so that comes from the outside in, and then you attach component to element, and then you add it to your root elements IDs. So I modified the code slightly in this particular instance because we, I think that made sense. Anyway, we start out there. Now we get back here into the renderer. We have our component state, and we can step forward into the update components again. Now, component ID is 0, and we do have 1 in here. So we have our parent, I guess, element for the component. And yeah, this is just me saying that so we assume that so this is a logical
element should be body right now. That should be the body element.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and we assume that either the logical elements at this particular point represents a comment node, like the this guy, right? It represents
Yeah.
this the tracking node. It either represents one of those or it is the body element, right? So this is sort of special case when we are dealing with the root element. And again, I've started adding my assumptions to the converted code, saying, well, this is how I understand things to work. So I assume that components start in the DOM always a comment node. Well, that's not very good English, even from my standards. I assume the component start is, what am I trying to say here? Well, is
I guess you want to also have the parent, not the component start. The component's parent is either a body.
no, so
Is
it
that a
sort of
document?
represents where in the DOM does this component start. Like what is the first, what is the position in the document object model where this component has elements, right? Or has something, a node or element or white space, whatever it is. Component start in the DOM is always a comment node. Can add it's or body. Yeah. All right. So that's my assumption, and I'm sticking to it, even though I didn't spell it out correctly. Now, if we didn't find a logical element, yeah, that's something wrong. So we skip over that. Now, here we want to go again update. If you're going to go and compare, expand that out. So we find the element out. So it's called child component locations. Same they have over here in TypeScript land. And then so there's something like elements to clear on root component render. We don't really need that, right? Because it's if you are asking Blazor to render out the root component of your application into an element, I guess you can do that in Blazor that already has content. We wanna clear it out, right? We wanna do stuff. We don't really need that. So because we know that there's nothing there already. It's always empty, right? Because it's not an existing, like you are able to insert Blazor applications into parts it doesn't necessarily. I think you are able to attach put in a Blazor application into a, maybe not an iframe, but just say you just exist in this particular bit here, like with so that's not really a case for us. So we can sort of skip that. So basically we come down here, we want to get the closest DOM element, and then we get the owning document, because I guess we need that. Yeah, we need that. Oh, and the reason why we need as because we want to capture the active element. We don't have one in bUnit. I'm not sure if we need to support that. We could do that going forward, but the idea is if you have an active element, so in the browser, for example, if you have your focus in an input field and you type something and then something else updates, it might lose focus. So what Blazor is doing is it gets the active element and then it sets the focus back on that element afterwards. So this might not be needed in our case, but I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so we basically want to capture what's the actual element. Go ahead.
Isn't there also something where you can tell the router to focus a specific element if your page loads? So isn't that still?
It's basically doing that with JavaScript. You can say basically put focus to the H1 element or something. I think that's the default if you go in a standard Blazor application under router. Anyway, so yeah, but so in the context of a bUnit test, I don't know if people want to test something where they want to validate that a specific element has focus, right? We kind of support that. So I left it in because you can, in a bUnit test, you can't can you now? No, the only way that Blazor is able to set an element in focus is through JavaScript, and we don't have that support, so I guess not. Well, we could, I guess, add a workaround.
We can set it manually via
Well,
some
we could intercept
binding.
the built-in functionality in Blazor that is basically triggering through a JS interrupt saying put this element in focus. We can that's built in, so we could create a specific
Can you
rule in our
not do this if you capture the reference, the element reference, and call like focus or so? But under the hood, it's anyway
yes. But if you
JavaScript.
what Blazor does is then it calls JavaScript and say put this element in focus, right? Yeah, but yes.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
But in Blazor production, it happens through JavaScript calls. So I guess anyway, I left that in. So basically, what we do is we call apply edits. We pass in the component ID we want to start from, the element, the logical element that is, and obviously the edits and reference frames. So some of this could probably be simplified again because the batch has all of this stuff in here, but I don't know yet. Now, if you step into this method, we get in here. We still have our batch component ID. So if collapse this a bit more, you can see this is the same thing if you go to definition here, unpack this.
No.
If you squint, it's kind of the same. Current depth, we have some child index, we have a permutation list that's here. Then there is some things going on here. We don't need the same, they have something called a reader, which is something that can read I think it's sort of, they're using the same binary offset, like bit shifting to squeeze more stuff into the same space. So we don't need a array builder segment reader. We can just go directly to the edits and say, give me the array, give me the offset, give me the count. So the C# version is slightly simpler, but basically we have a bunch of changes here, edits, we have our offset, we have our length. So I tried very much to keep the same things just to make it so that it's possible to follow along, even though we don't need to explicitly pull them out in C# because we can just access them directly on, like we could just go, instead of going edit values like square brackets, like you see down here, I could just put this in instead here, right? And it would be the same.
Yeah.
But just again for keeping it consistent. And then we loop over all the edits that is defined in the offset and count, and well, until the end. So we step in here, we find our edits and the edit type. Let me pin that. That's a prepend frame as we saw before. So we go in here and it has again, and the edits type here itself, it's pin that as well so you can see it. It's a render tree edit. So that's basically the lowest level part of Blazor render tree. It consists of these bits here, right? So we get the index out, we get the frame itself. In this particular case, if we pin that, you can see that this is a frame that has an element. I guess I pinned some of those here. So it has some markup, but let's look at the frame type. Frame time. So this is an element frame type, and it might have some, I guess, well, depending on the type, it is then different. Like these are just different views on the same data. You can see node type name, markup content, element name. So a lot of them a lot of properties here point at the same data because they're trying to use a very compact struct that contains the data, and depending on the frame type, you know which one of these elements that actually contains some useful data. So we have our frame type here, and we just pull out its sibling context, and then we have this other method we call. And if you're gonna sort of compare, you can see we're doing the same stuff here. It's more or less one-to-one. And so we step in here, and now we get into our frame type. Let's actually pin that up here. and we can see the element frame time is element. So now we've gone one layer deep. So basically, we want to insert an element into our DOM. So let's step into this method. Here we can pin the element name. So it's a div element, and if we just want to remind ourselves what we actually had over here, we have a div element with a class attributes, 2 class attributes, and then we have some
Markup content in our
markup
HTML.
content. Yeah. So back here, get the element out, and here is some magic stuff going on where we say, well, if this is a SVG element, tag name is SVG, again, that's more or less one-to-one. And then we basically go and say, well, we have our node, rather we have our parent, which is logical element. We can get the node out of that, which is a real AngularSharp DOM node. Then we can get the owner, and we know there is an owner because that's the owner basically points to the, let me pin that as well so you can see it. It points to the HTML document. So that's also how the HTML5 specs work. And then from a document, you have this method called create element. And if it is an SVG element, well, we have to create an element with a namespace URI. Otherwise, we can just create it with the tag name, which in this case is the div element. So we can step into this, say, is it and just to determine if it's an SVG element, you have to, and I've stolen all the code comments from the TypeScript as well. Apparently, you have to sort of go and find the closest element, and if it is an element, oh, hang on. I think it's unhappy with me because I changed
stuff.
Yeah, I edited the code while we were debugging, so now when I try to step over, it just blew up on my face. But the test passed, so that's something, I guess. Let's do this again. Get in here. Step over. Okay, let's get back to where we were before I step, insert frame, insert element. Here we go. So now we have a new element, new DOM element. I call it raw because it's just a div element. And now we want to again call to logical element. We saw that before. That creates a logical element and inserts it into our map of logical elements. And I guess we have this Boolean that sort of tracks whether or not this element has actually been attached to its parent element yet. It hasn't been inserted into the DOM yet. So when you call create element in JavaScript or in a DOM, it doesn't
attach it.
No, so you have to actually insert it yourself. So now we need to descendant and index exclusive, I guess it stands for. So basically we want to apply attributes to our element. So that works by finding the descendant frame, and if the descendant frame is of type attribute, which it is, we step in here and say, so the idea is on an element, if you have a start on an element, all attributes will come immediately after the name of the element, right? Because you can't have attributes after the closing tag of an element, right? Then it's something else, right? So we know if we go back here, if the next, so basically they say we take the frame index, which is what we were called with, and say +1 to that, and then we go and find the next descendant frame. Go ahead.
Isn't there an exception in Blazor where you would say if you have an event handler, because event handler are strict, like from the HTML syntax, they're not really attributes with the add syntax or add ref, the magic Blazor does. Does it count here as well?
I think I think it counts, but I think it might be a different attribute type. So if you go back into add attributes, you will see there's different types of attributes, right? So we get out the class name or the attribute name, which is pin that again. No, go away. It's class, and you can see there's, if it were an event handler, like what you talked about there, right? The event handler ID would be greater than 0. So that's not the case. So it's just set or remove attribute or property method we call. We don't set up event listeners because skip those, right? So stepping into this, it's And this was surprising to me, how gnarly setting a property might be. So we have a helper method here. Again, also something that's generated from TypeScript. So and there's some comment here. So basically updating the attribute properties of DOM elements involve the whole range for special cases because depending on the element type, there are special rules for needing to update other properties or to only perform the changes in specific order. So this is a module that I, again, copied from TypeScript. So basically, if the name is value, we have to do something else. If it's checked, like a checked attribute.
Input
But
check.
in this particular case, it wasn't a special property, so we go out again, and we can just go in and say, well, does this start with an internal prefix? So Blazor has these special attributes that they do special stuff with, I guess. So that's not the case either. And we ask, is the value, so we got the value here, pin that as well. So the value is the thing that's the attribute value, right? In this particular case, it's not null or empty. So we just call element.setAttribute name value. So that's a lot of steps to get there, right? And then we go and find, and we look at the next frame underneath the element, and it's also an attribute. And that would, in this particular case, be the foo attribute, and it also doesn't have an event handler ID, so I'm going to step over this because it's the same as before. Now we get in and we don't have any, in this particular case it's false because the frame type is now text. So now we enter into this. So basically we know we deal with all the attributes, so now it must be some child content of some sort, right? So here we basically say insert logical child. And if you step into that, why can't I step into that?
Always aborts entirely.
Yeah. Let me just debug. I put a breakpoint here. That's where we got to. I don't know what happened.
Can you also put a debug point? Oh, okay. Like
Yeah.
manually into the method itself.
Yeah. What do you mean?
If you just press Control-click or F12 into that method before you go in. Not with F11 or whatever you use.
This time my F2, maybe I hit the wrong key on the keyboard, I'm not sure. But this time I was able to do so. Now, here we go and we have our logical element, which is, if we want to have a look, it's the div, it's the body element. So it's the parent of the node, and the node is our div element. So now I guess we have the as logical element. If you step into that, we try to get the element out that matches the div element. If we don't, we just, we did actually, there was one in here. There's actually two. There's one for the body, one for the div element. So we get that out. So
you always have to find one, or?
Yeah, we always have to find one. But if we don't, we create one. So I think this, sorry, hang on. My youngest is calling.
Interesting. I'm just interested what happens if you put iframes. Can you have iframes in Blazor? I have to check this. But probably not, because that the logical parent probably is the iframe and not a body or the, how's it called? Comment tag. But let's see. Very interesting. By the way, if you want, there is a new release out. It's a nice number, 1333. Perfect version. We pushed out some changes for .NET 9 and also to tackle an issue with system textuation, which has a common vulnerability in 8.04. So I would highly recommend to update. Welcome back.
I have to just go for 1 minute and find a little bit of painkillers for her, and I'll be right back. Do you wanna sing a song while I'm gone? I'll be back in a very short while.
Sing a song. Okay, you know what? I will just take over the screen. And where's my bUnit solution? I will completely go in a different direction. I'm not good at singing, so let me share my screen. I'm in the bUnit repository, and I wanted to check the original issue we discussed at the beginning. Amazing. Thank you for just, turning off or minimizing my screen. We had this issue. If I go back here to bUnit, zoom in, go into issue, and look at this parameter not read from route. Because we do a lot of things in our fake navigation manager. Almost. This is almost correct, and I'm not sure why the fake navigation M will pop up this one. Writer, please fix that. Because what we are doing, let's say I am on .NET 9. Let's do it. And let me check what happens if we go to Navigate 2. This is called from Navigate 2, Navigate 2 core. The Navigate 2 is handled by the base class. And we do some stuff here, history, absolute URI. We have a lot of toggles here for .NET 7 and Greater or not. And I'm just looking at the bit. I think it's this one where we are setting notify notification. I'm not even sure where we do set the bit. No, that's not from us. We supply parameters from query. At some bit we do this. Oh, it's here. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the source code generator. No one is interested in that right now. I'm just looking, where is it happening? Here, there's the builder. And here, there's an exception. Boo. No one does exceptions anymore. Create error message. Exactly. And we're just checking at some point, here, how to set the parameter. And it would be amazing if it works also if you have basically page attribute, some page, and then you have something like, I don't know, my parameter. Almost, thank you. And then somewhere later in your code, let's put it here. You have, oh god, that's so crappy. Then you have your parameter, which is, exactly this one. So this, good afternoon. Sorry, I clicked it away already. Iggy is back in a second, just getting some painkillers. I guess Starter's a bit sick. Or was me? We can ask. And I'm interested to see whether or not we can do tricks in the navigation manager to set. You're back.
Sorry about that.
Hello.
Take care of the small ones.
Feel free to take over the screen once again.
Oh yeah, finish your thought if you were doing something.
No, I was just checking what we did for the supply parameters thingy. I just wanted to get a refresher on myself and just to check where we can hook in for the page attribute.
Yes. Actually, what I want to do for you, I'm going to share a live share link with you in private chat so you can jump in and have a look around in the code with me. Now, so where were we? Yeah, we were getting the logical element because we don't create a logical element, we just get casted to a logical element because we expect there to be a logical element, right? Otherwise, that's something wrong, I guess. So if the child is a component comment, I guess one of those with component comments with logical children, its children need to be inserted into the parent DOM. So in this particular case, our child is not an I comment, so we can step over that bit. Now, if the node we are inserting already has a logical parent, remove it from its sibling array. So we do not have a parent already because it's a newly inserted element. So it's not an element that has moved in the DOM from some place to another place, right? So now we want to get any.
Do you want to make the link public? How dare you make the link public?
I am.
It's called mob programming.
I'm not familiar enough with live share to be certain that I'm not exposing myself to shenanigans. So not today, Shirley Dev, but I can I can definitely share the link to the repository when we're done. How about that? So yeah.
What happens if I go to? I already know. I try my shenanigans in the console. Oh no! It's like just imagine the terminal is literally pointed at your stuff, and it's just an SSH connection, and I can do whatever I want. But it's obviously not like that.
No, well, kind of, I guess. So yeah, you can do bits and pieces, right? So that's the neat thing about live share. If I was running a browser, it would be able to pop up a browser on your side as well, so you can view the content. So that's a whole bunch of things going.
Interesting.
No, so here this is quite trivial. Get logical child array, and the reason why again, it would be an easy refactor to just say, instead of doing this, instead of calling this method, you just did this wherever you call this method. But again, I just wanted to keep it as much as possible one-to-one with the original code from JavaScript. So they call this method, and they, instead of just doing parent dot siblings. And so now we want to determine if your child index is less than count, and that's the case. That's not the case here. So now we just know that we can just append or add the new element to the parent directly. So we're gonna call append DOM node. So again, we are in our logical element extensions. It takes the child and then the parent. And if it is an element or it is a document fragment, well, in this case, it is an element. We just call, we have the parent, which is in this particular case, the body tag. And now we just append our child, which is the div element, directly to the parent. And we are done with that. And now we can go new siblings.add. So we can add our, and what is this? This is the div element. We add that as a child because we want to update the logical, parent logical element is the body, right? And it has a logical element. If you remember, it has a list of child logical children.
Is it always the document?
No, it's not always document. In this particular case, because we only have
I
one.
understand, yeah.
We literally,
yeah.
So
because I was also thinking, what happens if you have something like an iframe?
Well,
does Blazor support this in the first place? I
think it does, but I think in our case it's not relevant. But I think what would happen is that in an iframe you just render into an empty document, right? So it would.
The document should have again a head and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't think an iframe sees that it's like the thing that's loaded into iframe doesn't see that it's in an iframe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, here, so we're doing two things here. We are appending, we are adding our DOM node to the parent DOM node, and then we are adding our logical child elements to the parent logical elements children's list. Right, this is the siblings thing, and finally we take our logical element and set its logical parent to the parent element. So your changes resulted. Did you change something, Stephen?
It was accidental. So I wrote something in chat, and for some apparent reason, because I focus on you, I'm following you. It's like a focus trap. So I'm sorry. I just put whatever was there. So I was never there.
I'm just going to disable hot reload, so it doesn't try to insert my changes directly into our test. Now we said insert it to true, and now we say insert frame range. As soon as we see non-attribute children, all the subsequent child frames are not attributes. So bail out and insert remnants recursively. So basically, we call insert.
Wait, can you go back? I just have to understand the comment again.
Yeah. So this is probably Steve Sanderson, and he's British, and he uses fancy words. So remnants. So that.
I just know the word reminiscence, which is probably similar.
Yeah. So.
But no, wait. I have to Google that. Meaning, Jesus Christ. A part or quantity that is left after the greater part has been used, removed, or destroyed. That is a fancy word. Jesus.
I would have said remaining, but yeah. It's super fun to read Blazor source code because there's certain words that you learn English, good strong English words that you don't hear too often. Anyway, so we do that. 1 second. Yeah, so we get back here and iterate over that and come out here, right? Because there weren't any descendant frames really left. Like we had our text content, and that's done. What else do we have? We have our frame. Oh, we get to that now. We have the text element, so we get in here. We attach text. So it's just insert text. It's literally just tailing the text content out of the frame. We create a text node and we insert logical children. We've seen that before, so it's just stepping over here. And we get all the way down here because there's nothing special going on in this particular case. This is a simple case. And we return 1. Now we get back out here. Do we have more child frames? We do have 1, and that's more text.
We have a
I accidentally stepped over. Yeah.
Oh, wait, we have a comment how to use the oh god, what did I do? Every time when I cannot, this is super interesting. So because I'm following you, when I try to click, in StreamYard on a comment to pop it up on the display, it directly takes the focus away.
Okay,
wait, let me just click
you
once.
can I have this icon up here on my screen. This here up where you can.
I'm just not following now anymore. That's exactly.
You can choose not to follow me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I want to. That's unfortunately something I have to do. No, I'm just kidding. So you could use the word in the sentence, the remnants of materials from the manufacturing process were recycled.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am not 100% sure what I should make with this information.
Yeah. and then, oh, yeah, well. So,
but I like it. Thank you.
Yeah. We finished inserting the element. We return out and we come out here again. And now we are back in our apply edits. And there's no more edits to apply. There's no element to focus. And, well, now we are done. And we're done rendering components. So we exit out of that.
Also, thanks for the second explanation. That helped.
Yeah.
Shorty def.
So now we can go and we can actually say, well,
it's if I have a look at. Can you look at the DOM markup? The text content.
Yeah. Let's
actually
do.
Can I see that?
Yeah, you can see that as well, but users can't. So we can do DOM.
No, I cannot. At least I do not know how.
To prettify wet. Well, that should. Oh no, I probably want to type it with an uppercase P. There we go. DOM.body.prettify. There we go. I can pop that up now. And if we, well, zoom, we can see that
that looks as it should look.
Yeah, we have our body, which is the sort of root component. Then we have our div element bar level 1 element. So it did the kind of the right thing. I guess markup, that would be cut.body document.body child nodes prettify. So that is, so child nodes is essentially what we get when we like we don't, the body element is something that we create. It's not something the user has. So we kind of want to hide that from them, right? So actually I think, no, it's still building. Probably we just want to do, stop this and just do nodes and pretty. I think that should be the same. And actually, I believe we have a markup, yeah, which is already done doing the right thing. Hang on. Undo. So we can just do dot markup. Actually, we can just do, slowly getting there. 1 second. So It was a 16-minute debug session, by the way. All right, so we can go in here to cut, and let me just find markup. Ah, well, I guess it's not pointing the right place. But okay, I thought my component under test. Let's see. What are you pointing
It's
at?
very interesting. I'm just checking all the time. My content looks different than yours. So for me on line 79, you still have var markup equals cut. That's written on.
Sometimes it's a bit yeah, it's delayed, I guess. Boom, boom, boom. Oh yeah. So I guess what we probably want to make this virtual, and then I can in here I can say override nodes, and that would just, in this particular case, it would point to document.body exclamation mark child nodes, and there is no way of setting this internally, so it would just be row new invalid operation exceptions. Root should not have node set. There we go. So rebuild and apply. I guess maybe no, that probably doesn't work. Maybe it does. So if we go back to the test, I should be able to get the, instead of looking at document, I can just go to nodes and say, hey, give me the give them a markup from that, and that should work. So step over, update display, that's fine. We can remove that chat. So now if I go to cut and find my, well, it does have the div. Why is...
That's good.
Yeah, okay, now I'm sidestepping ever so slightly. Markup. Certainly should do the right thing. So if I do watch cut dot markup, One second.
No, the question is, can I take over? Unfortunately, what happens if I write something? Oh, that is somewhere completely else on my screen. I try my best to find. Oh yeah. Oh god. No, it's always there. Can I restart that session? Maybe. Damn it, I broke it. Live share. So, no. So on my screen, it's very interesting because can I open the unit? Oh god, I write somewhere else. Can I can just share it if I find the file he's working in again. Here are the tests. So I can share for a second so you see what I'm seeing. And where is it? Here's my entire screen. Let's take this and let's go. It's a bit small, but you can see if I type in here
Yeah, you
on
can zoom
Ingen's
as well.
screen. Yeah. At some point, if I know how. I just saw that when I changed something, it was a completely different spot on your screen, and I had to really open and close the file and whatnot. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Did I do it correctly on your screen right now?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Do you? So you can see what it looks like on my screen. Well, you can't, I guess. I put it over here. So we need a side-by-side view. I'm going to delete your text again.
Yeah, fair enough. Take over. It didn't work. I guess you have to reload the whole session to make it work.
Probably, yeah. Maybe just close the file and open it again.
I did. That's what I did.
Yeah,
it did work.
Mm.
Anyway, yeah. I will back to you.
Yeah. So let's just. I'm trying to not. I guess I was trying to optimize a bit. Let's just do this and change that into an expression body instead. So, and yeah, why not? Something like that. All right. What I was trying to do is I was just trying to have markup give us the actual markup that we want.
Yeah.
So step over, go. Okay. So now, that's still not giving me anything. That is interesting because nodes does do the right thing. What is up? I know what's up. I need to point at the property nodes.
What's the difference? Should it be the same?
The difference is this is in the base class and nodes is overwritten in the parent class. So yeah. Anywho, let's see. Do that again. So for I think I kind of convinced myself for the simple examples, at least it works. And now we can see, we can even pin this now, say pin. So we can see the markup being produced and it looks all right. We have a div element and nothing else from our body. So that's all right.
It's interesting it had the new line. But someone had to have the new line.
Yeah, maybe it's in here. Let's see.
Yes.
Guess there might be one here.
I don't know what add code does. I guess if you put the add code maybe below, maybe it looks different. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah. So we'll try again. Oh, I forgot. I deleted the break code that has breakpoint. My daughter is spinning around in my office chair behind me. Let's see. Put a breakpoint here.
You spin me. Damn it! I forgot how the song even goes, but you got the idea.
Yeah.
You spin my head right round when you go down. When you go down, so you get
it starts with an empty line. Yeah, I think it's just because if we go back to element, if I've done something like this, I think it wouldn't have an.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's doesn't matter, right?
I was just interested. That is important.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fair enough. Now, if we want to look at a more complex example, because I wanted to test, like the whole point of doing this is not that we could build out a DOM tree. We want to do something that re-renders stuff, right? So I created this component, what is it called? Add and remove elements. And if I just zoom out a bit, what essentially we're doing is we have an input element that we have bound a value to, and we can change that value. And then the minimum and maximum amount of elements is equated to the elements we have down here. Now, if we change it for the number, I think starts at 0. So the main element we have here doesn't contain any child elements. But if we then go and change it to 2, for example, it would render out the div element and the span element. So it would render out these 2 elements. And we can sort of move up and down, remove elements, so this was my first attempt at sort of verifying that it kind of does a thing, like a more elaborate thing that happens here. So basically, what we do is we go and we render our component, we find the input elements, and then we dispatch the event async, and we pass in the value 2 because we want to change the count to 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess actually what we could do is we can go find the main element, right? So if we do find, we say var main element, say cut.nodes dot query selector, find the main element out. Do that instead. So I guess what we want to see is if we go and find before, after, we would want to say assert same, I think, verifies the same instance. We want to have the same because we're not changing the main element, right? We're just updating some child elements inside it. And yeah, we also want our main element after to have 2, and I guess the before should be 0, right?
Yeah, wait, but now
Let me
but
zoom in again.
wait, if they are now the same, that doesn't make sense. That will never be true.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
right. God damn it.
You have to move this up, at least.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, yes, absolutely. You're right. All right. So let's run this test. I don't actually know if it works. So another test that would be interesting would be to create hierarchies of elements, right? So
Yeah, with
we
real
have,
child
like,
components.
Yeah, with child components and stuff like that. So we actually have a test for that higher up here where we have multiple things. So if we render this, we get in here, we create our element, which is the body element. This is the root element we have. And let's just step over and come in here to render batch. Now, initially, we will just have one updated element. We can see updated components that has a count of 1. So step in, go in here, and I'm just gonna fast forward a bit. So we get into the prepend frame because we're just adding new stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I am tempted to actually just step out and have it do the initial render first, right? Want to do that, or do you want to step through everything?
No, that's fine.
So actually, what
I would like to see the content. That would be interesting before you go
I'm going to put a breakpoint here before, so we get back here. So now we have our component on test, and if we go and well, let me view it instead like this. So zoom in, right? So you can see we have our input element, we have a separator, and we have.
Why do we have the separator there? I did not expect that.
So I guess the separator is not just there for
Components.
For components, new components. They are there just to separate maybe.
I guess everything which is dynamic.
Not entirely
I mean,
sure
rendering the 0 is dynamic. Your input is dynamic, and whatever comes in your main is dynamic.
Yeah.
That's just a wild guess.
Yeah. Well, we can copy this here into our add or remove component razor file. Well, no, not really. But yeah, we have this. And then we had. Let me go back to VS Code. Put that. Create a new window. Put that here to the side. So you can kind of see we have the input. Then we have one of these guys. Then we have the p tag. Then we have one more of these guys. And then we have, well, nothing because there's nothing being rendered.
Because you're 0.
Value 0, yeah. Okay. So step over, we got our element, an HTML semantic element even, which is the main element. And we can assert that it has 0 child elements. Now we find our input element and we dispatch an event to that. And we can do that because we have, go back here again, have a quick look, scroll to the left. You can see we have a bUnit event handler ID of 1. So we're able to trigger that event. And we also actually include what kind of event it is. We don't do that in V1, but I think it might be useful here because we could do some, we can be smarter about like if people try to dispatch an event that doesn't exist, right, for example. So I guess. So
are we doing this already? Because Blazor does that already for us.
Yeah, so the event type is included in the render tree from Blazor, so that's why we have that information. But yeah, you can see here I've created an overload that takes that helps a bit. So basically, it's a change event arc. I created a custom type of that has a generic parameter instead, so that you because the built-in change event arc actually from Blazor doesn't have it's not generic, it just has an object field for the value, but we want to pass in explicitly integer. So this makes it a whole bit easy, like it makes it quite a bit easier to pass in the value correctly, because you know it's an integer, so you don't have to convert it manually to a string first and then pass it as a string, because Blazor expects it to be a string, but we get the conversion for free. Anyway, we go in here, we have our element, we can get the render from that because of something else we did. You have to go back 4 weeks to see the stream when we did that. Then we dispatch the event, we pass in our event name and the event arcs. And after we've done that, we get back in here. Let me zoom in again to update display async. We can see what we have: a single updated component, and we have 5 updated reference frames. So, oh, by the way, we also have disposed event handlers, I believe. We have one disposed event handler because after you use that event handler and it re-renders, it will create a new event handler ID and the old one gets thrown out. So that's something. So we can step in here to update component.
But only event handler, not the input element itself.
No, not the input element itself. No. I hope so. Well,
because the state has to be preserved.
Hopefully again, yes. that's the goal. So apply edits. Actually, we can just put a breakpoint in here, I guess. So step over. So now we should see a different type. We have a new property called set attributes. We didn't see that before, and
that's for the input element, huh?
Yeah, I'm wondering what it is that we're trying to set. So I guess we get the parent element here, and the parent element is a logical element, and it's the input element. Yes, we are apparently setting. Oh, what we are setting is probably going to be the new event handler ID. So you can see we have. Well, I guess you can't see that, but I can do this. So now you can't see. Well, that doesn't help. Can I expand this? Come on. Do this, right? So we do have event handler, like the element is still here and still points to the old event handler ID, right? So let's step in here and see what we find. Apply attribute. So the event handler. Oh, that's actually it's value, of course. Yeah, we want to set the value.
2 2 sorry 2
to 2, I think.
We should see it somewhere. The value.
Yeah. So the name and the value is
like a name.
Yeah, internal name or prefix. Oh, we want to remove that. Let's pin this instead. So yeah, we have value and we have 2. And step in here. Oh, actually, we get into the special stuff here, apparently. So try apply value property.
I'm interested. Why is that so special?
Yeah, well, so let's figure it out. So certain elements have built-in behavior for their value property. So if value is not null, that's true, and it is.
You are an input element?
Yeah, we are. So now we have to normalize the input value. Okay, let's go and figure out what that does. Okay, so time inputs, daytime local, misbehave in Chromium-based browsers when a time is set that includes a second value of 00, most notably when entered from keyboard input. This behavior is not limited to specific step attribute values, so we always remove the trailing seconds value if the time ends up in 00. Similarly, in a time-related element doesn't have any step attribute, browsers treat this as a round to the whole number of minutes, making it invalid to pass any second values. So in that case, we strip off the seconds part of the value. Now,
okay, so for our case, that doesn't apply.
Well, we get the number timeout, so it does not apply. So we just return the normalized value, which is a string of 2. And then we go in here and
we have an HTML input.
Yes. It's not a also multiple. HTTP. It's not a select that supports multiple elements. And so what we do is we set the defer element value, which is just us going in, finding the element value,
and just setting it like I guess we are not really special. Setting a value
No,
value like that is like
yeah, and I guess also I experimented back and forth with this, but there's apparently a Blazor deferred underscore value that we can add in some instances, and then we both set
wait,
the
what? It was
deferred.
removed and now we append it again. What? I am confused, to be honest.
I
So
am
set
confused
deferred
too.
element value, remove that thing?
I think it's because maybe again this might not be so depending on how well Florian Rappel has implemented the browser specification, including apparently Chromium quirks. This might not be needed. So if we look at the outer stuff right now. Hang on, my daughter's calling again.
I cannot take over the screen. Wait, I can take over. Can I draw? Is there drawing? So now I'm interested in all the functionality of live share. I can chat. Okay. Share. Shared terminals. Can I ask what's that? That I don't know what it does. It doesn't work. So I'm just figuring out what certain buttons do here. Ah. Wait, what? Oh, interesting.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, I found buttons.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
You-
Sorry,
you-
please go ahead.
You can control. Yeah. So we
I also found, by the way, the shared terminal. I guess if you activate that, the fun begins.
Yeah. So what you will see is that Blazor has added we've added Blazor deferred value of 2, right? And I believe the reason why they do that, and I'm not sure we have to figure out if we need to do that as well, but I think the reason why we do that is because if we go and then set another attribute, that might cause the normal browser to then kill off the real value that we want. So it remains to be seen if this is needed for us. But let's say we step out of here. So yes, it returned true the special element, set special property. Oh, Steven, you have to stop typing.
Yeah. Oh, I deleted something. Thank you.
Yeah, you did.
I shouldn't follow you and type into Chrome.
Oh yeah, I see where there's a conversation going on. I'm saying exactly. So I guess that's
yeah.
we are one in chat. So yeah, set and remove property element. We done that. Now,
damn it!
That
was good. I stopped doing that now. Thank you.
Are you
it
sure?
doesn't work for me anyway. Yeah, I just quit. Don't save. So.
Oh man. Oh, it's back. No, it's still unhappy with me. So something got deleted. What the hell? Oh, man.
Can you just Control Z that whole thing? Like, you know, like
go back,
here we
go back. Yeah, you deleted that one. All right.
I'm so sorry.
So can I where's my live share going on in let me see.
I completely quit VS Code. You can do whatever you want.
Okay.
I'm out. That doesn't work for me the way I intended it to work.
Fair enough. Okay, I'm going to restart the debug session. Now that you are not messing around with me, I guess I should have given you a read-only.
Guest access, not root access. Never good to give me root access.
You start the live share session, you can sort of do a read-only access. All right, let's step over, and apply edits. All right, so we're back, getting our main element out. We are dispatching. Let me put a breakpoint here just so I can find my way back. Now, jump in here, apply edits. So the first edit we had was, an update to the value, which makes sense. So we've done that. So now, actually, before you messed me up, we were out of apply edits method, but then we have apply any deferred values. So this just goes in, finds the deferred value property, this guy Blazor deferred value, and because we have one, we go in, take the deferred value property, and then we set deferred element value, which again just goes in, sets the value property and removes the preferred value. So yeah, in our particular case, and there's a whole description here, it doesn't seem to add any value, at least in this example.
Fair.
But it
Might be a reason. I guess someone added that code for
I'm fairly certain they didn't add it just for fun. So I guess the reason it's there is because Blazor needs that in the browser. But again, it might not be needed for Angle Sharp, depending on how rigid Florian has implemented all the quirks that exists. So now next we get to another set attribute, and this one I suspect. Oh, damn it! I stepped over. That wasn't on purpose. But yeah, I can see that what we changed was the event handler ID.
From 1 to 2.
From 1 to 2, exactly, yes. All right. So that takes care of updating the attributes. Let's see what else do we have. So the next edit is a step in. So this is a new type of edit we've had. And so I think it's because we want to go into the main element now, right? So our parent element, if we look at that, is the body element. That makes sense. So get logical element. Well, okay, that's just pulling out the get logical child element. This is just the child array, and we find the index we want to step into. So the index we stepped into, if you go back,
it has to be the
now, that would be. Let's see if we pin that. We can pin that. That's going to be. Oh, I couldn't. I guess. Pin. There we go. So what we found is we found the P tag, and the reason why is because right now it says rendering 0 elements. We want to update that to rendering 2 elements. So now we've stepped in. We've gone from our root element into the next element that needs updating. And look up here. The frame type now is update text. Not surprising. So we want to update text, and we want to update text in our parent, which is the rendering 0 elements text. So we find that. We get the logical child, which is going to be our text node. And currently it says...
What is iText?
Currently, this is now a text node, and it has the content. Well, it's the... so what we are looking for, the... again, let's see, parent. If I go in here, find my node, and then find my... oh, I have to do it down here. So that would be parent.child nodes. No, node.child nodes, because we want explicitly to have the nodes, not the list. And we expand that, and we can see we actually have 3 text nodes. I'm going to zoom in. So you can see in the array, there's 3 text nodes.
Makes sense.
So there's the text rendering, then there's the dynamic element, the number, and then elements. So this matches, this is rendering, then elements, and then you have a text node representing the specific count. So my expectation is actually the only change we will do is we won't change the PL tag, we won't change this text node, we won't change that text node, we will only change this text node, which is very precise edits. So what we will do, if somebody had a reference, again, let me zoom in here. If somebody had a reference to, so this is our, the node here is the P tag, and it has 3 children. So if somebody in a bUnit test grabbed a reference to either these 2 text nodes that is sort of very low level, I guess you can't even use query selector or find those nodes because you can only find elements. But if they had a reference to either of these, they would stay the same. But this element, this might actually even also just update because we just update the node value. The node value.
The text content, only the text content.
Yeah, exactly. So
reference should stay the same.
Yeah, so we go in, it is a text element, so we just update the text content. So the reference will be the same, even if we are updating the content of it, right? Okay, what's next? Now we have a step out, which makes sense because we stepped into the P element. Now we want to step out again to one layer higher. So we just go to the parent, and And the next one is a step in, because now we want to step into, I assume,
main.
the semantic element, which is the
main.
the body.
What body?
Uh,
What?
parent should now be something else, shouldn't it be? Oh, I guess it's body still.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
the parent is the body, and the main
Yeah.
is the child. Yeah.
Okay, and now we get to preprint frame. So parent is body.
Okay, now I'm lost. Why is the parent the body?
Yeah, it makes sense actually. So, well, maybe I'm not sure. Let's step in here.
I am not. I
So
am.
we
I am
have
lost.
markup. We have markup, and
Okay, what is
let's
parent now?
insert markup.
Wait, can you hover over parent? What parent still is? Parent is still the body, or?
Parent is still, let's.
Yeah. Ah, no, it's not. The logical parent of this is the body, so we are the main. We are the main element. Yes. Yeah, there. Outer HTML. If you see the outer HTML
Yes.
of this
Okay,
one.
that makes much more sense. Yes. So yeah. So the parent element we are working on is the main, and it now have child content, and that is just, so if you look here, we go create and insert logical container, and that is here where we have what they call logical containers are the components, the exclamation mark comments. So we add one of those. And I think, so this makes sense kind of. So whenever you don't have individual elements that you are tracking, but you have a whole blob of elements like raw markup, right? You want to delimit that where it starts and ends. If you ever change this, if you remove some of the raw markup and add some of that, then you want to expand and contract that. So if you have a look here, you can see the raw markup itself is.
But that should also apply to plain text. If I just dump in text.
Maybe, I think it depends on if it's. I guess not. So we just
interesting. I'm out.
We just have a, so this is this bit here. So I guess I set it to So we have a div element. Okay. So go back here. There we go. So this is just the raw markup string, and now we need to use the parse markup method, which is basically get closest element. We give it a context. Find
Wait,
that.
was the p element also just markup? No. Why is the div now markup?
Oh, we need to first ask. The p element wasn't. It might have been. I don't think so, though. I think it was treated as, because it has.
Because you had to add the counter.
It has
the
stuff
elements
inside it. If we added an @ sign, if we
then it's also not treated as
the integer. We could actually change the test to do that. But yeah, basically, first we need to figure out if this is an SVG element, and then we can call the parse markup method. And the parse markup method will just find the context it's parsing inside. That's a little of custom stuff I added because AngleSharp needs some context. And then we can use a HTML browser from AngleSharp to say parse this fragment, the markup string, and we pass in the context, which is in this particular case,
the main
element. Once we have that, we create a document fragment, and we basically copy the node we have here from the fragment we passed. So the parse fragment returns a node list, but we want that to be document fragments to at least follow the same. This might be completely unnecessary, but it again, one-to-one with this code that we have from Blazor. So now we have a document fragment. We got that out of that, and
now you have to append it somewhere.
Yeah, we have to append it. So now we insert logical child, and we have our parse markup first child. We put it into our markup container, or rather, we put it after our markup containers. Let's step into this method here. F12. So insert logical child, and the parent in this particular case is the comment with the exclamation mark in it. I keep hitting 12. We don't want to do that. Let's step out. So here we have our child to insert, which is the div tag, and the child is not a comment. And if the node we are inserting already has a logical parent, remove it from the sibling array. It doesn't. Now we have get logical child array, and there's no sub element, so we just add our node to the parent. And that's sort of the weird thing here. Like we are appending the DOM node, a div element into the comments, but I believe so. If you step in here, so we say, well, okay, so the parent node is not an element.
And then you append it really to the parent.
Yeah, no. So what we actually really do is we don't. So because the parent node wasn't an I element or document fragment, it is I comment. So we step in here, and now we do something else. So now we net. So what we do is you get logical next sibling to the parent node. So that's null. So that means we go in here, and since the parent has no logical next sibling, keep recursing upwards until we find a logical ancestor that does have a next sibling. So get parent, and that would be our main element. Yes, that's our main element we can do, and then we can recursively add our child finally. So I'm not sure, but so that's probably still a need to have those comments to sort of figure out where to, like we want to, when we do the step in and step out, we want to find the right spot to actually step into. And that's why we have those Blazor components stuff elements in there. Now that has been added, and I guess we have one more thing left.
The for loop
That's
was
a
2,
prepend.
so
Yeah. So I'm guessing
you have to
very
add the
much that
span
this
or
is
whatever
going
you
to be-
edit.
Yeah, this is going to be the span. Let's just step over here and say, yeah, this is the span of span, and go in here. Now, I believe the last thing is step out.
Step out and then step out again.
Because then we are done with the updates. Now, okay, so there's no more here. Then we have some disposed component IDs. We don't have any.
But
We have
event
disposed
handlers,
event handlers. Yes, and just keep tracking event handlers. I don't really, not sure we need to, but it's, again, completely implemented. And here we actually get back from our dispatcher that called our dispatch event async because we awaited that. Now we can go and find the main again. And now I very much hope they're the same. Apparently they are.
Oh, yeah, they are.
And we have a count. So it, well, at least for now, this works. So, yeah. So I think this is quite cool. Now, I know we're getting close to, I guess your deadline is passed already by 1 hour. You usually have to step out after. Right. So suppose that, well, what if we, So, okay, let me, if you have 5 minutes more, add elements. Well, let's change, then let's create a version where we remove elements. Add, then remove. So this I'm not really interested in. We have our input, we dispatch with 2, then we dispatch with 1, and in between we do var span, we get the span out, so cut.nodes.query selector all, and that would be main followed by a span. So we want the span out. And now what to do about the span. So the problem I have, right? Like if the user
should it
does
be
something
null,
like
for example,
well,
or
we
not?
We can't turn that into null.
Okay.
Right. That make so, but I guess because the user, like, I can't reach in here I can't go in and force my span to be equal to null, because it's in user code. It's not in bUnit. It's the test here is user code, so we don't have control. So the user might happily still think that, you know, they might still say assert equal equivalent equal, and that would be it's just says span, I believe. So we would say span dot inner text
content.
Text content, of course, yes. And this test will still pass, even though the span is no longer in the
DOM.
in the DOM. Yeah, it's been kicked out. Now, I've been thinking about how the hell we could sort of deal with this, right? Like, so I think one option may be that there is, I guess, if we go back into the AngularSharp renderer, that is a prepend frame, remove frame. I guess we're getting into that. Remove attribute, is there a remove? There might be, I guess, maybe here in remove logical child. Well, I guess we can put a breakpoint here and try it out. I assume we get into a point where we know that we are we're removing the element from the document object model. That must happen. At that point, when we remove the element, we could go in and change all its attributes to be, I've been removed. And we could or we could change the text content to say this element has been removed.
Well, I would rather add just a custom attribute than really fiddling around. Would you do that? Yeah. I mean, yes, in your particular, yes, obviously a lot of people would go for the text content, but if you have like input checked or so, you might, you don't see the text content. You're interested into the checked state or the disabled state or whatever. It's just really no.
So that's certainly so I've also been thinking, what else could we do? Yeah, well, we could go back to actually having.
But if we prohibit the query selector all, so if we bring basically everything under control where the user gets the element, then for sure we can set that thing to null because we have the reference to that element.
No, because the user has pulled out the element before they dispatch.
Yeah, but yeah.
So if I step in here now. We get in here, and let's step over here.
If you return a ref to that thing, you have the reference.
So we have set attributes, and all of that is the same.
I was thinking of like if you have like a method which returns a ref integer, for example, you can happily set that thing to null later on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that doesn't work with interface objects that easily.
Yeah, so this updates the text. So let's see, do we get to step out? We get to step out. I want to see what type of update. Step in again. We go into main. And what then? Now we have remove frame. Yeah, so we go in here, remove frame. So yeah, the thing is, the user has that reference to the object. And the object was created by AngularSharp. We didn't do anything to it. So AngularSharp does have element factories where we can actually, instead of having it create its own elements, we could create bUnit versions of that
like the wrappers, which indicate whether or not that is part of that.
Basically the wrappers that we have, and we could set a flag on the wrapper saying, hey, you don't exist anymore. So if the user tries to access any element on that, it throws an exception. Now, I am not necessarily against keeping the bUnit element wrappers around, because my biggest concern with them is that we don't always get to wrap elements, but we can do that now because we create all of them, right? So we can make sure that every element in the DOM tree is actually wrapped in a bUnit element. Now, you can see here we step into remove logical element, so we find the child array, and we have an index. So we have a child to remove, which is indeed, oh, it's actually interesting. It's the node we are removing is the
The comment.
node. No, that can't be. That can't be. So what do we have in child array here? Oh, we have two count nodes and they have logical children. Okay. So I see what's going here. Yeah. So the child array is a type here. It's the let's go to locals. It's the array of logical elements. So logically, the comment node that we added to the DOM, right? Logically, the comment node, it actually has a list of children underneath it. So the comment node itself doesn't, but the logical element that that sort of carries the component node has. So if you go to the parent here, the parent is the main. Now we go in here and say, I want to get logical child array. So the logical child array, if I zoom into that and go here, you will see that it's logical element 2 comment node. Now child to remove would be index 1. So that's this guy. That's a logical child of comment type, and it has itself logical children. Let me expand those. And actually, let me go in here to node and change the pinned type to node type so we can actually see it a bit easier. So we zoom in here again. So, let me try that again because I want to make sure that you guys can get it part of your screen sharing. So our child array, that's from the parent, that's owned by the main. And then inside the child array, which is the child array of the logical parent, we have two nodes. We have the two comment node we saw before. And each comment node has a logical children as well. And inside of that, we have a logical child, which is the span that we're removing. So that's sort of how that's sort of why they also have, they also use the logical children to track the elements, right? So it's like a container for a set of DOM elements that are being pushed out as a set of as a piece of markup from the Blazor renderer. So once we go and remove that child array, and so if it is a logical container, also remove its descendants. So what we have to do, we have to go in and get logical children's grandchildren, and those are not null. So we basically recursively calls remove logical child.
God damn it, I was muted.
Okay, what do you want to say?
No, if you are in remove logical child, or it to come back to your original thought about what's going on with the reference, I'm not sure how Angle Sharp is working, but we might come around with just setting the outer HTML to an empty string, and maybe it throws automatically a lot of exceptions. Because if you have a span element and then the outer HTML is nothing, I mean, that's in an invalid state. Maybe. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
It's just a thought.
So would that be to avoid having the
Wrappers.
the component element types, the component markup, the marker, whatever we call them, the Blazor, I guess what they call logical containers. Yes, the components. I keep saying comments. those that are sort of visible in the DOM represented as a comment, right? What the Blazor renderer calls a logical container.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now, yeah.
No, there was more not about them. It's more about if you remove the component and you want to basically help the user not to assert certain things on that because it might be true, but the real DOM doesn't reflect that state. And my way of thinking was, why not setting the outer HTML to an empty string and hope, I have no idea, I'm not sure how AngularSharp really works internally, that AngularSharp does the magic for us.
Oh, it probably does. But the thing is, we have the AngularSharp DOM tree, then we have our logical element tree as well, right?
But this
And we,
references the nodes, and those nodes will not be in there anymore.
exactly. So yeah, the problem is if we continue here, right? So we are essentially removing from the parent, we're removing child nodes, and we're setting the logical parent to null. So we are trying to clean up after ourselves, and we also go into our map. We have 13 elements that map to a logical node here. So we remove that. So now we have, well, that was 15 before, now that's 14. And let's keep stepping out. Now it's 13. All right. So basically that remove frame is what we were looking for. Step out again. And now we're done. Let's go back here to the test. So the problem is I still have a span here that, right, the span element, I still have that. If I go to the span element and say, hey, who's your parent element? Parent element is null now, right? Because it's been removed from the DOM. Excuse me. So it's been removed from DOM, so it doesn't have a parent element. But it still has all this attribute. And if it had child elements,
Probably they are in there as well. Why shouldn't they be?
but I'm not sure.
You said always parents on to null in the logical elements, not?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it actually would. Well, I guess we can kind of test that by setting. Well, we can just do Let's put
count.
what?
Or like that. That doesn't matter. Something like count.
Yeah.
It had to be dynamic. That's all.
Yeah. Just add something in here. I guess I completely went overboard with wanting to add and remove a bunch of nodes. This is not really a good test anyway. Anywho, now we could also have like a that would just be I don't know, span child, and that would be in all of them. So now I wonder, going back to the test again. Am I still debugging? I guess not. Going back to the test again. Thanks, Visual Studio. Debug this. Yeah, I wonder if span also loses its children if the code is set up so that it goes in and just goes deep and just disconnects all child elements as well. I don't think so. But all right. So step over. I'm just gonna skip all of this. So what do we have now? We have span. Span we know doesn't have.
There's a child in the outer HTML. There's already a child.
Yeah.
That doesn't look promising.
Yeah. Well, okay, but again, we can customize the code so that we recursively just goes through all the child nodes and just make sure that they don't have a parent, right? So we can add stuff to that. We can customize this even more so that this assertion won't pass, right? Well, it wouldn't pass because it says my assertion is faulty. But that's not. It should be something like this, right? No, it should be one. It should be child.
But it's difficult. I'm not sure if you can, in 100% of cases, do that. Where now you have like the direct descendant of what is deleted, but if you're somewhere in the middle of the chain and you have the text content, I mean,
I'm fairly certain we would be able to do that. Now, I think obviously we can imagine having our custom DOM elements or DOM nodes that knows that because it looks like that we can in AngularSharp we can create a custom elements factory that whenever AngularSharp either through us calling, create element or call the parser, it will call our um, um, it will call our element factory, and we can return elements that has an additional method or property on them where we can say, yeah, you've blown up, right? You don't work anymore, right? So I think that should be possible to do that. And then if people try to access anything about an element they had returned, it would throw an invalid operation exception and say, hey, this element is no longer part of the rendering of the DOM tree of your component on the test. It has been removed, right? Something like that. Or if we want to keep things a bit more simple and not have to update our wrapped components, well, we did that through a generator, actually internal generator with bUnit v1. But like, if we don't want those, we could just we could just set, if we take all the elements, if we have an element we remove, we could take that element plus and iterate through all its children and start at the start at the first one that doesn't have any children and set its inner HTML to text remove or element removed from DOM, and then go up and just remove parents all the way up, right? And then remove maybe another, and then we could find all attributes that are set on the element and just rename the values to removed, right? Removed from DOM, something like that. So if somebody is looking at the checked attribute, they will see the checked attribute, but now it has a value saying this element, the attribute belongs to an element that is no longer part of the thing. And so that would mean we kind of communicates to the user that, hey, the thing that you had before isn't there anymore, and
I guess we can try it out, a few versions.
Yeah. Another thing I guess we could do would be to what if you had a way to say CTX, well, I guess you can, what if you can do something like cut
check this, check delete, check something
been removed, right? Validate that my span has been removed. So I'm just making stuff up, right? It could be on the cut, it could be on the
test context.
Text context.
The cut is also not valid anymore.
The cut would still be fine because it points to the it would have to be the bUnit root.
Yeah, but if you use something like find component and go down and look there for query selector, no.
So the method would sit on the bUnit root component state because it has the document, and when we remove an element from the DOM, we could just put it into a dictionary, right? And say these are the elements that have been removed during the test, and you can go and ask, and if it would be a set, I guess, or something like that. And if you go and ask the hash set, do you have this instance of this element, or do you have this, not instance, but do you have this object reference in yourself? Then the answer would be true. This has been removed, right? So
but
anyway, I have to.
I'm not sure. Not sure if this is
calling.
Okay.
So I think I guess I promised folks to share the link to the, if they want to poke around in the experimental repository. Let's see if I can find that link. I don't know if it's actually public. It's private. Let me just change it to be public, change visibility, change to public. Yes, I want to make, yes, I read. Oh, I have to click twice. Oh, use GitHub Mobile to approve. Hang on, guys. It's good that they double check and triple check, honestly. So that's fine. So let me, so it's, the link is...
Put it in the chat, or?
I can put it in the chat. Yeah, the link is this. And if you want to, I can also just show you the browser window here. And well, there we go. Inception. So it's under my GitHub profile, Eagle, and then it's Angle Sharp Experiments. Yeah, have a look if you're interested. But yeah,
Nice.
So yeah, I guess it's a good time to stop for today.
Yeah.
Now,
we might see us next week, I think.
I think so. Let me just double check. I know my wife is in Seattle next week, but supposedly the kids will be at school and all other activities, so it shouldn't be a problem for me to do this again next week. So
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think it would be fun to keep experimenting a bit with this and see if we can. I think a lot of this would be us coming up with test cases. Maybe there is test cases from the Microsoft Web.js
TypeScript
code
code.
that we can copy paste and sort of reuse that tests all sorts of different conditions to sort of verify that we have done this right. Yeah. So yeah, I think let's leave it there. Lots of unanswered questions, but I think it looks promising, right?
Yeah.
I think it looks promising. So
I like.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, Stephen. Let's
Then thanks for joining in, huh? I guess we can call it a day.
Let's do that.
And then we see us latest probably next week. If there's nothing coming in between. You never know, but we try our best.
Hopefully everybody's still healthy and in good spirits. Nobody is causing us to stay away. Yeah. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Stephen, see you next Friday, hopefully.
Exactly.
And thanks for
Have a
calling
nice
with
one.
us.
Great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I see you.